is it on? Yeah, we're about to start. Yeah. This is zoning board of appeals, Thursday, January 23rd. It's, what is it, 5:30? 5:33. Number one, please call the roll.
Mike Braswell,
Here.
Don Reed,
Here.
Stephanie Cosmeter is excused, Kevin Thomas,
Here.
Paul Haggis is excused, Amanda Henderson,
Here.
Chris Porterfield.
Here.
Amanda Henderson is first alternate, Chris Porterfield is second alternate.
So then you'll have the option of voting, Amanda, since the other members are not here. If they do show up, then they will precede you, and then we will. Okay. Number two, approval of the minutes from the Thursday, July 25th, 2024 meeting.
I make a motion to approve those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Yeah.
I can go back and look. Does anyone need to abstain? Was everyone
I
here
think
on July 25th?
everybody was here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I think so. All right, number three, zoning special exception petition for construction of a fence in the front yard to be located at 6800 West Edgerton Avenue, submitted by Brent Kuba. I'm sorry if I get that wrong. Doing business as, sorry? Kuba, okay. Doing business as A1 Fence Company. Tax key is listed.
Thank you very much. So before we get into exactly what is going on and what the petition is, I just wanted to talk a bit through the decision path for this agenda item because it's kind of a two-part decision-making scheme. So the first thing before the Zoning Board of Appeals is for you to determine the variance request. So before you, there is a variance request that I'm going to go through, and you have two options, as you always do. Either you can approve the variance request, or you can deny the variance request. If we do deny the variance request for the 4-foot solid fence in the front yard, then the Zoning Board of Appeals must decide if the 4-foot solid fence is allowed as a reasonable accommodation. At that point, the Zoning Board of Appeals is going to decide whether to allow the 4-foot fence as a reasonable accommodation based on height, and also as a separate determination based on the openness of the fence as well. Does that make sense thus far? Okay. So from the perspective of the request before us, the requested waiver is contains two different components. The first part of it has to do with the height of the fence in a front yard and the openness of that fence in the front yard. The lot in question is zoned R2, Single Family Residential Conservation District. Every single residential lot here in the city of Greenfield is regulated under the same code as it relates to fences in the front yard. So municipal code does permit decorative fencing in the front yard at a maximum height of 3 feet. The decorative fencing can be no more than 75%, or can be, this decorative fencing must be more than 75% open in the front yard. We have received 2 letters in opposition from neighbors. The recommendation of staff is for the denial of the variance request. The reason for this is that there needs to be exceptional circumstances related to the property that are unusual, exceptional, or extraordinary that apply specifically to this lot or parcel that do not apply generally to other parcels or other properties in the city or in that area. So that the outcome of that would be that because there's not a unique feature of this property, the outcome of it would be that this request would become so general or recurrent in nature as to suggest that the zoning code would be or should be changed to accommodate this request beyond just this property, because there's not a unique, there's nothing unique in nature to this property. Because staff does not find that it meets this standard, that is why staff is recommending denial, because there is not a unique feature to this lot staff recommends denial.
And sorry if I missed it, did we get at least some mock-up of what the fence will look like?
Yes. So as far as showing what it would look like, I received 2 photos from the fence contractor.
Okay.
They are shown on this slide. So this fence is not located on the property in question.
Sure.
These are just examples of what the fence would look like.
Would look like, which is not decorative. There's nothing decorative about that. Okay.
Yes.
Is the homeowner here? Okay. Yeah, I wonder, I guess, is there anything you want to speak about or just like give, I guess, help the board understand the request? Oh, hold on. Can you, yeah, if you want to come up to the mic, state who you are, and yeah, and that's fine.
I have several documents pertaining to his conditions and a document from the neighbor showing or stating, oh, you'll just have to read it. I can't.
I guess our
explain it.
property doesn't have any unique differences or anything
The only-
besides the fact that
Hold on. The
across.
only thing I find particularly eerie about our intersection is it's the only intersection with no street light, no flashing stoplights, no speed humps or
Sure.
speed bumps.
Yep.
And now when the police are called, such as the other day when a Jeep was left in the intersection, 3 squad cars from each department show up. Now, is it a jurisdiction issue on who wants to pay for the safety features for everybody using that thoroughfare for the businesses mainly?
That, I think that's probably a different issue, right? Something that we're
Does
not
that
gonna
not
be able.
pertain to the property or does that pertain to a public issue?
Yeah, that's probably something you'll have to probably have a conversation with the
Not like we
city.
live inside of a neighborhood. We live literally directly
Yeah,
across the street
right.
from a bar,
This-
a grill,
this man
a
right
gym,
here
a
was-
bank, a
Right.
mall, a movie theater, like all of these places that bring in all of these people and all of this traffic. And
it's
you
a
got
busy
just
street.
a stop sign right
It is a
there.
very busy street.
Yeah, I'm aware of the street.
I've
I know
called
it's
the
very
Alderman
busy.
Bruce, and I've reported how busy it is
Sure.
and requested squad cars be placed there because
I've
of the
actually
issue.
called DPW and asked for an
Hey.
autistic sign at Play be put up and also a stoplight, and he
Yep.
told me that that wasn't an option. The only thing that they could do is a stop sign ahead, and they did actually put that sign up going down.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess I don't have any other things.
So the request is based on special accommodation for, I'm assuming for your child, right?
For safety,
Yes,
it's
he
no-
has autism. I actually brought his evaluation report,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a severe eloper, so he constantly runs all the
Sure.
time.
As you can
I
imagine,
actually
I'm
have-
exhausted. I've worked 8 hours as a plumber. She has 2 other kids at home, one an infant and one 3 years old, and she has to take care of them.
So like he said, we
How
have.
old is he?
He's just turned, today's his birthday. He just
He's
turned
6
6.
years old.
Happy
Happy birthday.
Right. So does he go to school?
He goes to ABA
He
therapy,
has
and
missed
they work.
kindergarten because of his disability, so he needs to go to a therapy.
He goes to ABA therapy, and he's supposed to get 40 hours a week. So it basically teaches you basic living skills and how to deal with autism and all of that. And they work on his elopement there, but it has not improved at all. It actually
Okay.
has gotten worse as he's
So he
gotten
doesn't,
older.
what you're saying is standard school, he doesn't go like normal?
No.
ABA therapy teaches you how to be a normal person.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
No, he doesn't go to school yet, but I do have notes from his therapist explaining his elopement and how severe it is and how he's gotten out of
Okay.
therapy before. And then I have his evaluation report also. So this is to keep him safe. I've
no-
keeping track of it over 4 days, and he got out 12 times. Not out like where I'm like catching him. I'm literally running after him 12 times. Now you try doing household chores, do daily living things, do laundry, take care of your other children, take a shower,
Breastfeed
go
a
to the
baby.
bathroom, anything like that, and he is going for that door. He's taller, he's older, he's smarter. He pulls things over to the door to unlock it. He knows how to turn off our alarm now. It's literally, I'm begging you. I am begging. You have no idea what I live every single fucking day and how scary it is to have your child not aware of danger at all.
If the
He's
car
let his
stopped-
sister out before and brought her all the way to the street.
Why don't you give them those documents so that they
So-
can read?
Yeah.
And I also have a letter from our neighbor that lives next to us who has no objections, and she's seen Teddy elope multiple times, and she's very concerned and also would think it would be a great opportunity to put in a fence.
Did you give that to staff?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if you received that, okay. Because she said there was 2 objections, that's why I'm asking.
Oh.
How long have you lived at the residence?
6 years.
6
and I
years.
paid at least $25,000
6
in
years.
taxes. And I feel like this is just a ridiculous issue because I'm having a hard time. All right.
I'm not doing this for aesthetics, I'm doing this for the safety of my child.
Sure.
I actually have a company that's willing to pay for the fence because Teddy is so severe that we qualify for this program that pays for things, and they're willing to pay for the fence for us because we cannot afford it.
Can I speak? We put up a fence in 2009, or I don't know. I'm not sure when. It was a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Teddy! Oh, sorry. And so I paid for that fence. I did the proper procedures. I had the survey done by a company. It was $800. I did all of the work. I pulled the permits, and then I was unable to afford for a full, a full fence around. And so, which was fine. So I did what I could. And this is not something I or her or anyone in our family is paying for. It is approved through a state, hey, I know. It is approved through a state program, a waiver for his disability. So I have no hands in this whatsoever. And the companies and the people surveying my yard have recommended that a 4-foot fence be put up. And that's.
We actually
the
asked
only-
for a 6-foot. They told us no, that we could only ask for a 4-foot. And
understandable,
it is
I
not
get-
decorative because we need it to be solid, so he can't stick his foot into the fence and use it to climb over. It needs to be solid so that he can't
Well,
climb.
yeah,
it.
and well, the given fence that you're presenting also, he could climb, right? Because those,
He could, and that's the issue that I have, and the intersection doesn't seem like it seems to be an issue to anybody unless you live there. And I don't think that's very fair to the people. I think that the business across the street that is open 20 hours a day is a bar and a gym.
Sure,
And it has
yeah.
18 spaces that face my yard, okay? 18 parking spaces, and that's just on the one row. And with their light shining into my yard, I see that 20 hours a day. In my bedroom, in my baby's bedroom, and in my front window. And I feel that that could be prevented with maybe them putting a fence up or something like that, but they have not, and that's fine. That's their option.
yeah, I mean, some of that
Yeah.
is just where you live, right? I
I
mean,
find that's where I live, but, and that, it noted section 2A or something other in the code.
sure.
This is every day. And this is because somebody with MS can't watch him right now and 2 other children. So we have to bring him places. Okay, it's not because we also want to. Okay, this isn't fun. All right, I'm sweating my ass off right now. All right? I have no objections to changing the fence, doing whatever we need. I would prefer it be taller. But you know what? I thought a compromise would be a 4-foot fence. It's not that tall. People walk their dogs in my yard all day long. They cut the corner all day long. And you know what? That's my property, and I don't care. I don't say a thing. Whatever, you know? I just feel like the businesses across the street are a very large portion of the issue. And that's Greendale, right? It's Southridge Mall. That's Greendale. That's not you guys. You know, you have no hands there. So who cares about the intersection? Who's going to deal with anything in that intersection? Nobody. And it's been 75 years, right, Tom? All right.
Well, and I can understand that, and I guess what I was.
That
gonna
man
say-
has lived there for almost twice my length of life.
Sure.
He used to own the whole block. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel terrible yelling at that man earlier because I thought we were pals. But you know what?
So, yeah, let me hear from.
I feel like,
the-
yes,
the-
I feel like I'm going on a rant here and I don't want to.
Right.
I'm
So the fence that you were proposing, I think he would be able to climb regardless as well, even if it's closed. The fence, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a deterrent, though. I mean, it's gonna slow him down. When they're talking about, 5 seconds he's in the road, well, maybe that's. they're
5
gonna-
seconds that I can get
They're
to
gonna
him.
have eyes on him, I feel,
Sure.
like within a minute at any given time. And if that gives them a minute and it gives them a peace of mind, I think that's what the state looked at and granted them this contract, and.
What was the plan for the driveway too? So I've seen your property before, right? There's multiple vehicles there. I think a motorcycle, like there's, there's stuff there. So what was the plan? They were gonna close off the driveway as well?
There's gonna be a double gate over the driveway, yes.
So
And
our
that was
gro-
that wasn't gonna be decorative or anything either?
Well, the
It
gate-
was gonna be all solid as well?
Yeah, but the gate can be arched to give it some decoration.
Okay.
It's a big driveway, so
It is.
It needs a steel frame. The steel frame would be on the inside, you wouldn't be able to see it from the outside.
Right,
So there's also, it has to function. So
Sure.
it's gonna have a steel frame, cedar on the outside. The cedar can be decorative. I can make it arched, a continuous arch to give it that design. That's fine. But again, this is because of the flight risk of the child and how busy that intersection is. It's crazy how busy that is. And there's nothing to do with the site. I mean, you can see the plan where we're going. It's square off the house. Not venturing anywhere towards 68th at all. Just coming right towards Edgerton. And again, giving the parents the peace of mind that it can.
yeah, and understand, so and I'm not trying to get in your personal business, but at all, so that's not what I'm asking for, but, like, have you considered selling and moving? And I understand that given the economy, like, things are happening, but, like, because your complaints is how busy the street is, I understand all your
definitely-
complaints.
I hear you, but like, who's got multiple thousands of dollars just to
Sure.
put down on a payment on a house, just
Yeah.
to move, you know what I mean? But we've definitely looked into moving, but we just put our fence up. That's,
Yeah, and I
I
understand
bought our
that,
house
I
for
just,
super, super cheap, and now houses are going for $350.
right, so
My
you
house is
also
insane.
consider safety, right, but
That's why we're trying to get the fence.
I came from
it's safe, right, but I think the traffic, sure, I'm not sure.
Braden, stop.
No, I find it ridiculous. How is it
Just
safe
stop.
for me?
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if we hear from the homeowners as well, right? And I want to give everybody their turn, their fair, rebuttal, right? So if we hear, I'm not sure who, Gina, you yeah, so who is here from, okay. So would you like to come up and speak, at least state your name, how in proximity you are to the property?
As he makes his way up, one of the things that as we were going through that, I realized that I failed to mention during this is that one of the things that is available to Zoning Board of Appeals that I should have brought up during this is that there's 2 potential processes that you guys can decide to go through. So the first has to do with the variance request. The second has to go through the reasonable accommodation due to the ADA requirement. The difference there from a statutory standpoint is a variance request runs with the property. The ADA requirement would not run with the property. It would be tied to the individuals living there who need special accommodations.
Right, that's what I was, yeah.
So
Okay.
hypothetically, the board can choose to deny a variance but still grant special accommodations. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that there's
So let's run through a scenario. So what you're trying to say is the variance is they'd keep it at 4 feet, but then they would get a fence. Is that the example you're trying to
Yes.
provide?
So,
Okay.
and the thing about the
makes
reasonable
sense.
accommodation, because it relates to ADA, is that it has to do with the accommodations that they need.
Right.
Specific
Yeah.
to the individuals who live in that property, and we can tie whatever accommodations the board decides that are appropriate to individuals at that property.
Okay, so once it gets sold, right, then those accommodations will
If it
go
would-
away.
Correct, or if it was no longer needed, or
Okay,
whatever it might be, correct?
sure, okay,
So-
not applicable, all right. So if you could just state your name, kind of where you are and adjacent,
Name is Thomas Anick, and I live right next door.
next door off of what, 68th, which,
I'm on 69th.
on 69th, okay. So yeah, I guess what is your thought? I mean, that's your neighbor.
I
you
know that, and I feel sorry for them. But they put up their big fence, they put everything in the backyard so the boy could not get over the fence. Now they want to put up another fence right up against my property again. You know, they don't have to go that far, first of all. if they're only trying to block them from running. But listen, I've been there over 50 years, and I just don't need more stuff for hassles. That doesn't make sense. There's a code for a reason. Let's abide by the code.
Yeah, and I can understand.
That fence ain't gonna do my property any good, is it?
I guess if he runs into it, maybe.
It's gonna run into it. Look at it.
Well, I mean, if, their son, you know what I mean, goes
He
into.
don't, no, he's in the backyard. There's no problem.
Okay.
No. That's a lot of fence to keep him getting out of the car. From running from getting out of the car. That's a lot of fence. I'm sorry. I realize they have a problem, but it's just not my problem.
Sure. And it has to be 7 feet away from the line anyway, the property line, right? It is, I thought there was a, what is it called?
That other
So
fence is
I thought it had to, no, so am I wrong?
wrong.
Okay, so I'm wrong. So you can
Fences
go
are allowed to
right on the edge of the property line?
Up
6
to,
inches.
yeah.
to.
Up to,
So up to.
up to.
I just put a fence up, 6 inches.
Wouldn't that obstruct the vision?
Yeah, that's another point, that I was gonna bring up.
Okay, sir?
Yeah, thank you.
Go home, buddy. They're not gonna decide anything. Go home.
I'm Dina Fleming. I live at 6776 West Edgerton, which is on the corner of 68th and Edgerton, so directly across the street.
Across the street? Okay, I know you're, okay.
Okay.
Yep, I know where you are.
I am empathetic to the family situation, but I do agree with the last residents who said that, building this fence would negatively impact the residential character because that side of the street, the north side of Edgerton, is residential. It's completely residential
Yep.
up until you get to about 74th Street, and they're on the corner of 68th. So that's, at least 5 blocks of residential, and it goes residential all the way down to 60th Street,
Right.
and even past that.
Yep.
So I mean, that side of the street is residential in character, and I do believe that constructing the 4-foot fence that's completely, completely closed off as far as you can't see through it at all, that would also impact the aesthetic value of the neighborhood too, because I looked at the pictures and it looks like the fence is going all the way up to the sidewalk.
Right.
And people walk by there all the time. I walk my dog past their house constantly. And I think, like the city had mentioned, that does lead to additional requests for unsightly fences. If you have one and somebody's driving by, they're like, well, why can't I have a fence like that?
Sure.
I do think that there could be other reasonable accommodations for the family that would be less obstructive to the neighborhood to protect the disabled child's safety. I'm 100% empathetic to their safety concern. I'm okay with putting up some sort of sign, saying autistic child area. We haven't explored that option yet. And
Well, hold on.
and
Let her speak.
what if he's going to grow taller. He's
Right, he's
6
gonna get
now,
older.
So in 2 years, do we need an 8-foot fence? Where does that stop? I'm 100%, like I said, on board. I empathize with the family, but I think there's other more decorative open fences that could protect the child's safety while still preserving the residential character of the neighborhood. And thank you for your consideration.
No, I understand. Thank you. Is there any questions from the board at all?
What's an example of a special exception?
You can come to the, yes,
I want to know what an example of a special exception is, because that's what you said.
yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry, mine wasn't on. So we're talking about reasonable accommodation at this point. So what we're looking at are how a reasonable accommodation is the smallest possible change that still allows the disabled person adequate relief from whatever it is. In this case, it would be the elopement. So when we're looking at what our code permits and what is needed, what is the threshold that we need to reach to make sure that that individual is receiving the relief that they need, right? But when we're making those decisions, it really falls into the least amount that needs to be accommodated in order to have that relief, as it were. Does that make sense?
Okay, no, I want to know an example of it, though. Like, give me an example of somebody who has a special exception. Because if my child having a disability doesn't count for that, then I want to know exactly what one is.
Sure. I'll certainly give an example, and I apologize to everybody being late. I have three young children at home myself, so I'm with you. Excuse me. My father-in-law was in a car accident and is now in a wheelchair.
Oh, I'm so
Plus,
sorry.
Thank you. He's doing great. They applied to have ramps put into their house. They lived in Sussex, it's a different area, but due to their city code, they couldn't have ramps in the front of the house. And so what they ended up doing was putting a ramp in the back of the house so they could have access to the house. So that's an example in which the least amount was done to give him access.
Okay, so my child sees a door and runs. It does not matter if the door is in the front of the house or in the back of the house. He knows that door is how you get out, and that's all he cares about.
And I understand, and just
So like, in our situation, I feel like I just don't understand. I've done all I can do. I've asked for the autistic child at play. I was told people don't look at signs when they drive. I've asked for the flashing lights to be put in, or a speed hump, or a stoplight. He also told me no. The only thing that they could do was stop sign ahead. I went to the fire department. I asked for Project Lifesaver to be brought into Greenfield, because that is super helpful for not only people with autism, but dementia or Alzheimer's, and that went nowhere. I had a meeting with the fire chief and Maggie Sutton, and that went nowhere 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2022. So like, I feel like I've done all I can do as a parent, as a mom, as someone who wants to protect their child. And now I'm asking for a fence to be put around. The fence can be smaller. I don't care. I want my child to be safe. I don't care if the fence does not go to your property. Oh no, so your dog can't shit in my yard. Okay. Whatever, I don't care. I want my driveway to be enclosed in the fence so that I can get my child safely from my car to my door.
and
I think
I'm not going to
this
speak.
fence you're putting up would cause more accidents, because when
Why
you're
would it
down
cause, why would
6
my fence
feet,
cause accident?
you wouldn't be able to see to make a right-hand turn.
So on 60, so what he's trying to say, on 68th, you try to make a right-hand turn on Edgerton there, right? It can create a blind spot, potentially. I don't know.
Making a right-hand turn, it's gonna, what do you need to see? You're making a right-hand
No, you're
turn.
making a right-hand turn.
That
What
off
do
blue
you
of
line, that
68.
blue line does not represent the entire fence. The fence line will be cut back probably 12 feet from that blue line. It will go through the center of the yard.
Let Brent talk.
Well,
Brent?
Pictures of that, like where the fence would go. I took pictures of the
Sure.
actual spot, like we thumbed through this.
okay.
See that you've got clearance to see right and left. You're not really creating a blind spot.
How far up Edgerton could you see?
You can see the
Well, if you can look for yourself. If you look through the photos there,
You'll have to look at them,
there you go. That was one of them. So if you go back, can you go down again? One more? Right there. See where it says fence line?
Right.
And on the other side, that's along Edgerton. So
Yeah,
you
but
got-
you don't have 68 there, so you
we got like probably
can't see it.
10, 12 feet.
If
to
you're
the-
making a right-hand turn, I don't understand why you would
Have
need
to
to see
pull
that
right
way.
up
You
to the-
need to see left.
But even if you do left, right, or, yeah, and you do have a stop sign, but
You got the whole sidewalk.
But do you
and
use it?
median,
No,
so
nobody uses it.
Yeah, like-
That is why we need a street
You
light.
got probably 15 feet roughly to the curb to the fence.
Can I ask you to speak into the mic, please? Just, otherwise it won't get picked up for those watching at home.
You got about 15 feet from the curb to the property line, which is probably indicated on the survey as well. But visually, you can see it from the pictures that I took. So when you say visual, no, not really. I mean, you got 15 feet. Like that picture right there on the left and on the right, both of them, you can see how much room you got from, if that is the fence line, to Edgerton.
Move that fence back further.
That's past the hospital. As long as you stop properly at the intersection.
Yeah, and you can see from the spot where I took the picture, you can see left, and you're gonna be able to see all the way down. I could visually see 3 blocks in that picture.
I think what they're pointing out is the picture on the right was taken from the west side of the driveway, because you can't see the driveway in the picture on the right?
The east side of the driveway.
No.
Yeah,
because-
so I'm
That pine
looking,
tree is on
looking
the corner
east
of this intersection.
and fence
Oh,
line.
I see. Oh, I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. Okay, so the driveway's over here.
Right now.
I don't want to.
Please don't talk in the gallery. We
That's,
cannot
so
hear you.
that picture on the right is actually looking west.
This is what they figured out. I had no hands in this.
So, and the one on the left is looking east, and that's from approximately the property line, so the visual is fine.
I'd move it back.
It's actually, it's in further than the actual tree that's there.
With that tree or something.
The tree is actually further, more of a visual variance than the fence. So that's looking at 68th, so that's, there's no fence in that at all. I was just kind of taking a picture of the corner of Edgerton and 68th.
That tree that's in the corner is that corner tree.
There's the pine tree right there that you're talking about.
There's two pines on that street, and then there's one, no, yeah, and then
Yeah.
there's one black walnut in the middle. If it has to come in the middle of the yard or wherever it needs to go, I don't care.
We just want the driveway enclosed and
So-
then Teddy.
I don't want it to be an issue to anybody, and I want my son to not run in the street on Halloween this year.
So the proposal is to build it on the property line, on Edgerton. And staying.
Yeah, so if that's a proposal, then I think that's a little too far out.
Okay.
But that's my thought, right? But
Sure.
then we need to then, yeah, I don't know.
So we can hold it in 10 feet, that's fine. So now you got 25 feet from the fence to the road?
I'd move it in off of Edgerton too. That, moving it that close.
It's hard
So,
to visualize.
I'm sorry to go backwards a little bit. So
Yep.
I'd like us to just see address and just address really, as he gets older, he will be able to go over whatever fence is put up. So what is the contingency plan when that happens? I mean, we gotta get there, but I don't want us to be back.
Tomorrow right now.
I understand.
Literally, I am just trying to make it till
So
tomorrow.
it's more of a deterrent than anything else. It slows them down,
Okay,
stops them from having a direct route right into the heavy traffic.
okay.
So if that gives the parents a minute, great. But, I mean, if you look at where that house is and they're doing everything they can, setting up an alarm, a lock on the door. Their son can unlock it, can open the door, can fly out. Well, if he's, on a dead sprint, that fence blocks him. Hey, theoretically, that could save his life.
Well, you can get
Nobody here's arguing
deadbolts.
that. I'd like to, nobody here's arguing
I
that.
have
But then you can
deadbolts,
only
I
open
have
with a key.
deadbolts, I
Bingo.
have deadbolts, I
With a
have
key.
alarms, I have everything, literally.
You have a
he is
deadbolt with a key.
The smartest kid on the planet.
How does he get the key to open a deadbolt?
What was that?
You can get a deadbolt on the inside of your house that you can only open it with a
She
key.
doesn't understand what she's saying. She has a deadbolt. There is a latch like an old school screen door should
Uh-huh.
have, and an alarm, and a deadbolt lock. Okay?
I can understand he can turn the deadbolt knob,
Right, so we have
but
a
they
lock
make,
on the
they
door
make
to keep it out.
deadbolts where you can only open it with a key.
Okay, but what about getting groceries? Okay, your scenario is great and everything, but doing daily tasks, like just getting groceries from the car, say I left something in my car, going to get the mail, anything like that, I will not be able to do.
Why?
How would I get groceries? How would I do that? I can't do anything like that unless Braden is home with
How do you
me.
have groceries and unlock the door?
I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Because he would run. If the deadbolt
I
isn't gonna
understand,
matter, am I gonna lock the door every time I go and get the groceries from the car? And then unlock it? Do you see that sounds
If he's inside, he
stupid?
can still unlock it, and that's the issue. He can unlock it from the inside the house where he's safe.
Get
and
a
we turn
key
around-
one.
I'm sorry?
Get one that you can only open it with a key.
On the.
Okay,
Yes.
but that still doesn't solve the problem, like if I need to go and get groceries and bring the groceries in or anything like that.
I
Get
have a
something from the
deadbolt
car.
Where you can only open it with a key from the inside.
On both
God,
sides.
am I
it's like
fucking
this.
Both sides.
Correct.
Never seen that.
If I may jump in here, I think everybody needs to take just a quick breath. We're just trying to help find a solution here. Right now, the default is to say no, and I don't
just
think we want to
feel
do that.
like you guys are literally all deciding the fate of my child
It's been
right now.
predetermined on that document you mailed to us.
I-
And that you want to deny this request, which I understand, that's your job, okay? I pay how much in taxes to live here? I'm young, okay? I bought that house when I was 21, all right? I had a son with special needs immediately. I didn't see normal milestones, and I don't know what it's like to be a normal dad, okay? You have to think differently with a child with autism, okay? It is a struggle. He did not eat for 2 years. He drank 5 Pediasure shakes a day. And thankfully, the state was kind enough to cover those for me because I couldn't afford it. And the state's kind enough to cover this fence for me.
Honestly, it's just
But the county or the city
you
here
can see how he is. This
fighting
is
me.
what we deal with every single day. So it is what it is. You guys are gonna make up your minds and you're gonna decide what you
And
want.
if it needs to
But-
be rezoned, it needs to be rezoned and possibly just that street. Because it is a.
But that's a different ask. That's a completely different ask.
But
And
it states in that, it says it needs to possibly be rezoned if this is approved. It states that. So it says, we're not gonna approve it because we have to work harder. That's what it says to me.
But that's not part of this body here. That's not the
That's what it
purpose.
said in the mail.
I understand.
Underneath my section, it said that, and underneath the person that built the fence already,
Mm-hmm.
it said the same thing.
And to be
There's
clear,
not,
we-
there's
we find a
not,
common ground.
there's not a single residential zoning district in the city of Greenfield that permits fences taller than 3 feet. It doesn't matter what residential, it doesn't matter if it's R1, 2, 3, or 4, in no residential district could it be allowed. I just want,
So
I don't
if
know
that
what
road
it,
was possibly,
I don't know,
there's a commercial property for sale, 3 houses down.
if it was a commercial property, that is, if it's a commercial property, you could not use it residentially.
Okay, so why is it on our side of the street, 3 houses down?
That house is not
That's a
zoned-
planning
that-
commission
that hou-
discussion.
that
That's
house
not
is-
this
I'm
discussion.
sorry,
here.
I'm fired up. It's,
yeah, it's
hard
okay.
to hold him and.
The vacant lot is not zoned commercially. They keep advertising it as commercial. That vacant lot is zoned residential. It's not commercial.
Literally says commercial
Okay, so
property
it's very
for sale.
confusing.
I know,
That's
but
why
it's
When I
not.
was sold my house, the realtor tricked me and told me it was
Literally told
commercial,
I,
residential.
I
and was like,
continue,
whatever, I don't
I
care.
continue to receive phone calls for people asking about the commercial property. It's not commercial. It's not.
Okay,
So
so
why are
that's
those
it.
signs up there then if that's?
Oh
not
my
it?
God, be quiet. Just stop.
No, I know, I just
Brayden,
don't
just
understand
shut
why
up.
I'm constantly
Okay, you
under
guys go ahead and
scrutiny.
make your decision.
I feel like I didn't properly say what I needed to and I apologize. It's hard. And I hope you see that.
Can I ask a question without getting up? Sure. What are you gonna do about the gate? You pull in, you open the gate.
Right. That was,
I have no knowledge of it, so I was,
Are you gonna leave the gate open while you?
I was under the
that also leaves a blind spot for him
the button or something.
on the,
I did not know.
I just think there's definitely,
yeah, and
no kid wants it, I could jump a 4-foot fence like that.
I know. I don't want to just,
I think I can confidently say that all of us, our hearts go out to you. What you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, we cannot wrap our heads around, and I think you are strong and amazing, and I commend you for being here and trying to protect your child. What I personally would like to do is, are there any accommodations that we can make where from a zoning board perspective, because one thing that we are here to do is to protect the best interests of Greenfield, right? And we don't want people across the community building fences in their front yard. It's not beautiful, it doesn't foster a sense of community. Do I think that there are extenuating circumstances that can overrule that in various ways? And do I think ADA is a prime example of that? Absolutely, I do. I think that we need to make accommodations for those of us who have struggles that people who are neurotypical never need to even think about, 100%. So my question would be, is there any way that we can find a common ground here? Does it need to be a 4-foot fence? Does it need to be solid? Is there any wiggle room there? Because some of the concerns that I'm hearing are how it looks, not being able to see through a corner.
Right.
And I think those are legitimate concerns for neighbors. So is there a fence where you could still have that additional 30 seconds that you need to take after your child if he runs, but that you could still very clearly see if you're turning? And I don't know what the answer to that is, but I'm wondering if there's any kind of middle ground here.
yeah, and I'm wondering too, right, if it's,
There's a middle ground. I think if we change this from a solid fence to a picket fence, You'll be able to see through it. It looks like it's more inviting as a front yard fence, so that might be where we find middle ground. I think it's still gonna slow the child down. The ability to put his foot in between the pickets, sure, it's there. But also, you know, when we're looking at, if it's gonna delay this process, yes, it'll delay him from escaping. So maybe that's the middle ground that we can work with, is making this a picket fence?
And just for zoning board members, I did Google this, and the best fence for a child with autism is actually a secure fence that's at least 5 feet high and doesn't have handholds for climbing.
Sure.
So just so,
Yeah.
I'm saying, and what is, yeah, I mean,
Not my first rodeo with special needs too, and we tried to always build a 5 or 6 foot high fence. We hold, like, when it's a 6 foot high fence, we hold the middle rail up just so it's harder to climb. Have I done 4 foot fences? Yes, I have, where villages may not allow us to build any higher than 4 feet. So then
Sure.
that's what we do, and that, you know, again, it's peace of mind. I mean, that's what you're really going for here.
Right, and I think too, it's the property. I mean, honestly, where the property location is also not fitting. I mean, that's a lot of fence, right? If it was, that's also a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and they're when you put things in perspective and you look at that property just on that survey, they're not trying to fence in the entire thing. They're really just trying to do that front area coming off the house, not bumping it towards 68th at all. And it does make it look, I think it makes it look more presentable, I guess, that way, rather than fencing off the entire property. I mean, it's a corner lot, and that's, you know, it's a corner lot. So there's only so much you can do. But I do think this is something that needs to be done, I guess, in my opinion.
As you guys are contemplating everything that we've heard thus far, I just want to also mention that we can take them as 2 separate motions. I confirmed with the city attorney today that that is completely allowed. So if we want to treat the motion for the variance, and we can have a motion for reasonable accommodation, those can both happen. So you can make so again, when we're talking about variances, we're talking about things that are specific to the property and it runs with the land. So in 50 years, when they hypothetically might not live there anymore, that house will still be allowed to have a fence in the front yard. When we're talking about reasonable accommodations, the accommodation will be tied to the individual who needs an accommodation. The board can decide, as you know, things related to duration and things of that nature, but it would not be tied to, it won't run with the land, but it would be recorded with the Register of Deeds. So I just wanted to make sure that if you guys have questions about that, let me know, because I know it's not typical to what we do.
Yeah, so meaning that if the homeowner sells the house, the fence comes down, is that?
That is an option available to them. They can decide that this reasonable accommodation is tied to the fact that their son lives there still.
Yeah, I think that'd be reasonable.
I think I'm struggling too, though, is like if you don't have the right survey, right, and staff hasn't been able to review, if you're willing to set it back, you know, I don't know, 10 feet or whatever that may be, as well as give an adequate depiction of what the fence will look like if it needs to be more decorative, that, you know, even if it's a reasonable accommodation, I mean, I don't know what others feel on that.
I would move it.
But
I don't think
Before we go, do you guys have a question about the difference between the variance and the reasonable accommodation? Okay, I just want to make sure I was good.
thank you.
if they can move it off the lot line, I don't see that on the lot line.
yeah, and if it needs to be more decorative, I'd like to see what it would look like too, right?
I can show you.
Because, I mean, you got other neighbors, right next to it, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is an official proposal versus just pulling something out of your pocket.
I'll pull out from my website into my fence. I'm the one that's gonna build it.
I don't know how others feel about that. If you want to actually see it, or is it relying, I guess we were relying on staff.
I'd like to see it, maybe the neighbors would like to see it.
Right.
Okay, well, so,
You understand my point, right? Because
change
I don't
it.
think that we're accepting the closed off fence.
yep,
I'm not personally, but we need to see what it's gonna depict, like, what it's gonna look like.
If the board would rather have their, perhaps an openness requirement and then allow staff to work with the applicant on aesthetics. So for example, if you have an openness for a fence, if you say, we want the fence to be at least 50% open, right? Like an accommodation, right? And you're willing to allow staff to take that responsibility over from,
Sure.
we can do it that way as well, if it would help the process along. Staff can do that. Staff does that for commercial properties.
Right.
Plan Commission does allow
Good.
staff to, make color decisions and aesthetic decisions.
Yeah.
We could do that for this as well, if you want.
And that would have to include if they set it back. I don't agree with it being completely on the lot line either, and use this come back. I'm also concerned about, to the neighbor's point, what does that door look like for the driveway, right? And like I said, I've driven by there many a times, and there's a lot of vehicles in there. That's your own business and stuff, but now we're gonna be enclosing a lot of vehicles in there. Like, I guess my next question is,
We have 3 cars.
I think there's been more than, I don't know. Sure, okay, I don't know your situation, so if there's gonna, that's fine.
Can't use our garage because it's not attached to our house.
So, okay, understand it, but if you got people coming in and out as well, what does that look like? Because with the fence, is it gonna be mechanical, like, is it gonna be?
No.
It's gonna be all manual?
yes.
Okay. Because that also poses a risk to the homeowner as well, if it's up against that lot line, and you're trying to get it, I don't know how you're gonna swing it in or out, right? But you're not gonna be able to, they're not gonna be able to see either.
You have to swing in,
Sure,
but, I mean, this isn't the first double gate that we've built. I mean, this is pretty
Yeah.
common. Maybe not in Greenfield, but in other municipalities it is.
okay.
So just to emphasize that point, it's a concern I was thinking about as well, is if you have a gate, you're gonna have to park the car. There's not enough room in this driveway across the sidewalks. You'll be either in the street to go open the gate manually, get back in the car,
Well, if you
drive
set
in,
it
close it.
back 15 feet or whatever.
Yeah, and that's,
I,
My driveway.
Yeah, so
Sure.
if we did set it back 15 feet, then you could pull into the driveway.
right,
Yeah.
so I think this goes back to, I don't think we're actually looking at all options. And I would like us to just, again, take a deep breath,
Yep.
talk about some options and see if there's something else that's less evasive that we could maybe explore. As opposed to saying, it has to be this, it has to be this.
Right.
I think we've thrown out quite a few suggestions. I mean, the fact of the key for the deadbolt, that's how I keep my kids out of a certain room in my house. I don't want them in. I'm the only one with the key. Without a key, they can't go in. If my kids are high functional, it's not to compare kids, this is a very simple solution. You put a lock on there with a key and your kid can't have it.
I have alarms, I have cameras, it does not matter. Again, what if I'm doing stuff, what if I'm trying to get him from the car to the
Yeah.
house? He literally you see him, he just drops to the floor and then he just takes off.
I understand. We're trying to help find a solution. And you said yourself, when your neighbor brought up, what about the gate? You said, well, I'll just leave him in the car while I close that gate. There's a viable solution
the flight risk there.
right there.
He's in the truck,
Yeah, unless you lock him in.
Well, if he can get out of the house, he can definitely get out of the car.
he's in a 500
Right.
seat.
Right.
How would he get out?
A harness is harder to get out of than opening a door.
I
Thank you.
think you're,
He's all the way in the back, there is no door where he is. We have the SUV, he's all the way in the back.
maybe I'm not making my point clear enough, is that we're trying to help provide alternative solutions, and we're asking you to give a,
Honestly, just sounds like you're just trying to come up with excuses to try not to put fence. And I'm all
Per-
for changing, whatever, you wanna change it, I don't care, I've said that multiple times. I want to keep him safe, and I want my driveway enclosed so that I can get him to and from. Don't care, you wanna move it, move it.
we also want to keep him safe, but but we want to explore other options. We're providing options. We would like you to accept or come halfway, find us something else, as opposed to saying it has to be this fence. We need to do something else. We're just asking for a little give and take.
think
We're
she
on your
is.
side.
I feel like she is. She's saying that it doesn't have to be a solid fence if it needs to be a different height. It does, to me, it sounds like you are open
I am.
to that,
Yeah.
that,
So I think, 15
feet.
it goes,
Does not have to go to my other fence, but I would like my driveway to be in it.
so
It's
I
not
think
that hard. I want to keep him.
changing this to be like 10, 15 feet off the property line,
Right.
I think that making it an open picket fence so you can see through it, again, makes it more inviting. I think it's gonna provide the safety net that they're looking for. So I think maybe we could keep this open and try to revisit this again, or accept it as it is, as we're describing it, with, the status of the acceptance, like you said before, with commercial properties or whatever, that we can do it that way.
Yeah, I think we have those two options, right? I think we have that two options of, okay, do they need to come back to us with something more, concrete and what what they're doing based on our recommendations, right? And see, and then we talk that through and make a determination, or we approve it, and I guess staff would then have to use, their judgment on what decorative looks like, as well as what, the visibility looks like, potentially.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all, we gave, I think, our opinions or what our thoughts are on it, right? Just to keep it, we're almost at an hour. We got others to, be respectful of others' time. And I would suggest we take them as two, right? I think we do the variance separately that's what I suggest, versus the special accommodation, or, like I said, we can vote to.
I
move it.
would prefer them separate.
Yeah, right.
If you're going to go that route, I'd ask you to keep them separate if
Sure,
you're going
yeah,
to
yeah.
do
That
both.
makes sense. That's if I think we would go that route if we're looking to give, the authority over to staff, if you will. So I'll let you think on it. Personally, I would think you should come back, right? Consider what we're saying to you, maybe come back with a better proposal, a better thought-out plan of what you want that fence to truly look like and where it's gonna be.
It's
And
wintertime,
that's
so-
I'm just giving you my opinion.
that's
That's what I'd
fine.
like to see too.
I can do it, we can come back next month and revisit.
Yep.
And, we'll plan on holding it in 15 feet. Is that what we're recommending?
Well, yeah, I would say, yeah, somewhere away from I don't want to tell you 15 feet, 20 feet, right? Bring it in reasonably within, right? Make it, work with the homeowner to, like, what does, good gonna look like? What is it truly gonna look like?
Yep.
Right? From a
Yep.
decorative perspective, a view perspective, and see where
Okay.
we can go from there, I think
Sure.
would be helpful. Is that fair? The board, I want to make sure everybody's consensus there.
I'd also like us to explore the 5-foot fence, if there are ADA regulations or guidance on that. If it's,
Yeah.
again, as he gets older, I want to make sure if we're going to do it, let's get it done right. I don't want to be
Right.
back here 3 years spinning our wheels.
So
Right.
make it 5 foot high?
Well, what we're trying to say is, I don't know, did the ADA accommodations is 5 feet, right? Is that what Gina?
That's what
I-
Amanda,
that's what
Amanda
when
had
when
that.
I.
Yeah,
Googled
so
it,
then
we-
we'll just put that, the point is that'll be a point of discussion when we come back next month. Does that make sense? So we're all versed on what, to his point is, look, we don't want to, 3 or 4 years from now, we need an 8-foot fence now, right? We want to make sure that, the construction of the fence makes sense,
Okay,
right, going forward, and the longevity as well.
okay. Yeah, that's fine by me. I'm
So
just-
we are trying to work with you, right? Just be fair, we're trying to work with you, we want a little more concrete, and just be methodical about how we're going about it is all, okay?
And in the short term, I would recommend, look at a deadbolt with a key. I know it's going to be a little bit of pain, but it's going to keep him safe until we can come back next month.
Or other alternatives, I don't know, listen, I feel you. I don't know what is out there, and I don't know if there's other alternatives, but yeah, in the meantime, you know, a month may seem long, but we should be able to get to a resolution. Sure. Okay.
Would it expedite the process if we did empower you to work with the city? And rather than come up with an idea and then bring it before the board again and
Open to
have us
that. I mean,
decide on it, if we got the city involved right away with the planning process, would that make things move faster?
Yeah, it would probably move it along, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get a vote tonight because I'm the alternate, but my personal feeling is that we would not do the variance. We would do the reasonable accommodation. It would be, I mean, personally, I feel like if the research says 5 feet is what is a reasonable accommodation, then that's the expert that I'm listening to because I am not an expert in autism or ADA.
Right.
I understand the not wanting a fence for, like a solid fence for visibility purposes potentially. I don't know how that will be impacted if the fence moves back. But if we can speed things along and help this family and more sooner, oh wow, I'm an English major, don't tell anyone. More quickly move things along to help this family by going through the city, then if that is an option and, you know, you feel good about that, then I would be on board with that too.
Yeah, but would the city reject it? If they're gonna reject this,
Well, I
Yeah,
think
'cause-
we get to decide about the reasonable accommodation and then, do you know any more?
Yeah, because
about
it
that?
was recommended to deny, right?
Right.
From the city
Right.
perspective, okay?
The variance.
The variance.
The variance, right? But what about the ADA? It was just,
So.
that was towards the
So
variance?
staff's recommendation is that you discuss.
Yeah.
So staff wasn't making a recommendation toward the reasonable accommodation because.
Got it.
This was the first time I'd met the applicants or the homeowners and their son. So I wasn't, we hadn't talked about what would, you know, the give and take as it were, and what would be reasonable and what accommodations would be necessary, not just in this moment, as you've mentioned, but, you know, looking as he grows and needs might change. So.
I still elect to move it. My opinion is to move it to next month, but
I'd like that too.
I'll second that if I have to. I'll second
yeah,
that.
I don't know if we need a
don't
motion,
we
but
should
I
make a
think we can
decision.
just, right?
Are you making a determination on the variance or on this reasonable accommodation or both?
Well, yeah, I don't think we're making a determination. Well, I guess this is hard because with the variance, right? Yeah, I don't know what others thought. I think the variance shouldn't be a variance, but then that's only going to leave it at what, the 4 feet, the 3 feet? Is that how that would work? So, okay, so the fence, so if we, say we deny the variance, right? Then is that a variance to the height or is that just a variance to the property moving forward?
If you deny the variance, they can still get a reasonable accommodation.
Reasonable accommodation for the height, right? Right?
For any accommodation.
Any
that they would
accommodation,
need.
correct?
So that you can deny the variance and still do the reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation could mean height, openness,
Yeah.
location.
So then maybe my thought is I guess what I'm thinking is to be denial to the variance.
Hold the thought. So
Yep.
if you deny the variance, we come back next month, do we pay another fee?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
I was just checking, because otherwise I'd say hold the thought on the variance.
Yeah.
Let's deny the variance next month, so I don't have to pay again.
No. No, we're not here to take your money. We're trying to, so I think what I'm trying to propose is that the variance, I would make a motion to deny the variance, right? And to move the, the accommodations to next month's meeting, given, the right survey, where it will be, what it will look like, et cetera.
Yep.
Is that your motion?
That'll be my motion.
I'll second.
So you want me to repeat? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, well, okay, so I'll make a motion to deny the variance. Go back to, you had a reasonable accommodation. Go back to the variance, please. Yeah, the variance request, essentially. So, yeah, I'm making a motion to deny the variance request. We'll do a separate.
And then there was a second. Who said second?
I'll second.
All right. And with the second, I'm going to call roll, and I'm just going to go down the line. Okay. Mike Braswell.
Aye.
Don Reed.
Aye.
Kevin Thomas.
Aye.
Paul Haggis.
Aye.
And with that, it is 4-0 to deny the request. Now, I believe I heard that there's a second motion.
Yeah, so the second motion would be to move the special accommodation discussion to next month's meeting, to review, I guess, the updated site plan that they will provide and what the decorative, or what the sign will look like.
Move it in.
Yeah.
All right. is there a
Given
second?
all the commentary and everything that was proposed, that was suggested by the board.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
All right. Mike Braswell.
Aye.
Don Reed.
Aye.
Kevin Thomas.
Aye.
Paul Haggis.
Aye.
4-0. It is tabled for the next meeting.
Okay.
If
So I
I-
hope that we can at least come to a resolve next meeting, and so we have something to move forward with, right?
If I may, just to circle back on one topic, we talked about putting up autistic signs, the lights. If you can bring documentation of people you've talked to, I'll gladly go to bat to get those things in there, because I've seen those things.
Yeah, and
work.
listen, we can have the right discussions with the folks at the city too. We can make some phone calls or have the right, so,
And
yeah,
Any documentation, anything you got, please bring that along. We can help there too.
right. And, yeah, I'll try to have some discussions in the meantime.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Okay, so I think we're at number 4. They rescinded their petition, right? So I think we can move on to number 5, correct? Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, so item 5, zoning special exception for petition to construct a 6-foot tall solid fence in the front yard located at 3320 West Lindale Avenue. So once again, we have a little bit of a decision path for this agenda item, because depending on the answer to the first question before you today will determine if we need to go and ask 2 more questions. So the first question before you today has to do with the city's determination of the front yard of the property. That's the first question. The city says this part of this property is the front yard, and you need to decide if that determination of where the front yard was made in error or not. If you determine it was made in error, then the 6-foot solid fence may be installed in the proposed location. If the zoning board decides that the determination was not made in error, then we proceed with the typical zoning variance request. So going into how did the city make the determination of what is the front yard of this property. So what is on the left is a little bit of the definitions that staff uses when we're making this determination, because at the end of the day, it's what code says. So a front yard, it's the area that extends from one side lot line to the other along the full length of the lot
Can
line.
we close the door? I can't hear you at
I
all.
can't hear either.
Or just have them,
Thank you.
If I shut both the doors.
Yeah.
locked-
they do?
Yeah.
Well,
Jeff, do you know how to make it so if someone opens the door, it opens? That one? All right, they can come around. All right. So, so front yard, and then part of the code does say when the front yard is not obviously evident, the zoning administrator shall determine the front yard. My title is city planner, but I am the zoning administrator. The side yard, which is the area extending along the side lot line from the front yard to the rear yard. A porch, which is a covered area adjoining an entrance to a building and usually having a separate roof. Not always, but usually. Living area excludes open porches. And section 21.040902 specifically regulates porches with roofs as projections onto the primary dwelling. Other examples of projections would be a deck, a ramp, a cantilevered bay window. All of these things are projections that are allowed into the front yard setback, as it were. So what that tells us is that the porch is in the front yard because it is projecting into the front yard. On the survey, the primary structure is labeled separately from the porch. The porch is labeled CONC with roof above, meaning concrete with roof above. Because of all of these factors, staff determined that the front porch is not the southern extent of the front porch is not the delineation of where the front yard is. Staff says that the front yard of this property is from the primary dwelling of this toward the street. So, So when we're talking about the very first question before you today is, did staff incorrectly identify where the front yard is of this property? Staff believes, based on code, that the front porch is not the front porch is in the front yard. It is not the delineation of the front yard, that the front yard begins at the corner, or is from the corner of the main structure over either side.
So what you're saying is that second picture is what you're determining is
So the picture on this one, so the picture on the left is what staff has determined to be the front yard from the primary structure toward Lindale Avenue, which is the street in this case.
And that's how they have their fence, right? They have it from that front yard.
We're not worried about the fence right now. We just have to, have to focus on just where the front yard is for the first question.
Tracking, okay.
The applicant in their because they believe that it was made in error, the question is, well, what do they believe it should be?
Sure.
They believe that the front yard begins where their porch ends in the front yard, shown on the right there. So from the front porch forward. Staff says that that is not the case. It's based on the primary dwelling.
Okay. I'm tracking now. Now I'm following. Okay. So essentially what staff is saying is that fence should go back all the way to the concrete. Well, I can't
Right now we can't focus on the fence because the first question, because the fence doesn't matter if we have where the
definition is,
front,
right?
If the front yard is incorrect, then it doesn't matter because then the fence wouldn't be in the front yard.
Yeah, so let me clear. So your ask of the board is to determine, based on definition, where we determine the front yard to be?
If your first question is, did staff make an error in determining where her front yard is? The applicant is also here. I don't know if you want to talk to her or ask her any questions. I believe she has things to tell us, but.
Yeah, I do got a question. I'm assuming a permit wasn't pulled for this?
Hi, I'm Marcia Hernandez. I'm the property owner at 3320 West Lindale.
Yep.
I actually have something I would like to read to you, kind of like a speech, and it's going to answer that right away and answer a lot of things that'll be helpful with you making this initial determination and decision. So if that's okay, if I could just go through that quickly.
Sure.
But dear members of the zoning board, thank you for hearing my request today for a variance. I would like to start with an apology. I hired a professional contractor for this project and assumed that since he was experienced with this type of project that he knew what was required from the city to stay compliant. He admitted to me after the stop work order that he did not get a permit, and I was not aware of that at any time. I'm truly sorry and honestly thought that I did enough research myself by reading the ordinances and even talking to a city planner before even starting the project. I don't think anyone likes to admit that they don't know it all, even when you think you did. But zoning laws are definitely not my forte, and at no time was it my intent for any of this to happen this way. So thank you again to everyone here with the city planners, especially Gina, who fielded a lot of questions from myself during this whole process. But I see that the agenda did indicate that this request was due to placing it in my front yard. I know that that's what we're looking at right now. And with what I know, I understand why it's viewed that way. I know quite a bit about ordinances now and how to read them and decipher them, thanks to Gina's help. But I will try to explain why I feel this has more to do with what is considered my front yard and the setback requirements in my area. I have a unique hardship due to the non-conforming layout of my lot, the multiple non-conforming homes within my neighborhood, and the uniqueness of my property's construction and how this request is the minimum necessary to allow me reasonable use of my property, while having no negative impact on neighboring properties or community character. The documentation I've already provided also shows how this request still aligns with the spirit and purpose of these ordinances and does not create a detriment to public safety or welfare as well. As you can see from the numerous pictures I included with my original application, my home has a unique construction. It has a covered front porch that is structural and weight-bearing and runs the entire length of the front of the house. And it is not built up or open like most porches are. It was constructed with the home in the 1930s and even supports the front dormer on top. And no time would I have ever considered it a part of my front yard. I even tried to find an accurate description in Black's Law Dictionary or within the Greenfield ordinances that can accurately describe it. It is not an open porch, but a part of the structure of our home, so we have always considered it a part of the home, along with my contractor, who agreed that it's not part of my front yard. And everything to the right of it is considered side yard. It wouldn't be my front yard. And side yard per ordinances does allow a 6-foot fence since it does not go past that point. The current situation isn't due to anything self-imposed. Whether we had our old smaller garage or a new larger garage, which the city, don't worry, went through all the proper permitting and everything, it doesn't change what we've always believed to be our front yard of our property. I do have some additional handouts I can give you that show you the before and after measurements to show that the prior garage and with the new garage, it only took up a 10-foot by 6-foot area of our prior side yard to show that this has nothing to do with what we've considered to always be our front yard. We did not run this fence to the porch because we were trying to maximize more space as the result of a garage build, but because we were under the impression that it was in our side yard and not part of our front yard. When reading the zoning ordinance about fencing, it never directed me to the section that describes front yards. So I was completely unaware of any of that information or setbacks until after the stop work order, unfortunately. So I'm asking for your consideration of all the facts that have been presented to show that we already have a non-conforming lot that does not meet the minimum requirements for a district and a unique home with a structural porch. Please see the exhibits I have provided today for reference. Even if the variance was approved, I do not feel this would set a precedence considering the unique physical characteristics to our home and our lot and the placement of our fence where it is now not being in the front yard. It would also still be further from the city line and curb than other homes in the area, most of which are nearby, but none of them have a home or lot such as my own. I am asking for the absolute minimum amount of space to allow us practical use of our property from this request and the preservation of our property rights as well. Thank you so much for your time in this matter. That's really all I need to say. I do have
There's something I went past there.
some measurements I can give you, and it also shows an additional 5 properties, 3 of them within 400 feet, that they sit closer to the city line even than my front porch does, that are nearby. So they're all right here, and you can keep them.
Okay. Yeah, so Gina, I also got a question for you quickly, are we consider this non-conforming? I guess the property itself, is it all considered non-conforming, or to what the applicant was saying?
Yes, the property is a non-conforming lot.
So it's okay.
All right.
It does
I
not
was
give
past
certain,
there.
okay.
And if you look at his picture, this looks good, because the house south of there actually is more forward than this fence is. So this property looks like $1 million.
Thank you.
I think, I don't.
So here's another question. I don't, is the fence company, are they here at all? Is the person here?
I think out of embarrassment, he didn't want to be here.
Well, and then the reason why I'm asking is because, right, rightfully, I don't know what the financial piece of this all was, but, right, depending on how we vote and stuff could impact, right, just taking it down, right, whatever cost it occurs to you. So I just want to keep that in, like, hopefully
Right.
it doesn't impact, negatively impact, but is there a reason why he didn't, I don't know, because this doesn't align to decorative either, does it?
As much as I would love to talk about fence, can we please decide front yard first?
Well,
Because
I mean, that's the
because we
whole-
don't- You
yeah.
don't have to have the discussion about the fence.
Fence, I get it.
So if we
Yeah,
could just-
based on the definition, it's hard because,
I would also like to note that, as you guys all know, the burden of all of this falls on the applicant, who
Right.
has been very good about getting us information.
right,
Staff does not feel that the fence is structural. Or, I'm sorry, that the porch is structural.
Yeah.
And we have not gotten evidence that says it. She has told us it's structural. The building inspector does not believe it to be structural.
even though it's load bearing,
If we do not
doesn't
believe
matter.
that it is load bearing to the second story, we do not believe that to be true.
Okay.
That's okay. And that's fine. I had a hard time finding, I was going like way back trying to find historical data on the house because it was built so long ago. But that's why I tried to include as many photos at different perspectives as I could.
Was it added on and
No, it
So-
has beadboard on the ceiling. This was built, I did actually talk to somebody I know, so I assumed I probably couldn't use anything from him for this, but he does a lot of work. He works in Minnesota though, but he does a lot of work on old historic homes. And right away, he's like, no, I can, with the beadboard on the ceiling of your porch and the way that that's constructed, and the dormer actually comes out, it's like 3 inches from, if when you look at those side photos, you can see how it comes out past the front wall of the house slightly. And there's even ventilation vents on the beadboard, because from what his assumption, what he's telling me, he's like, that definitely looks like it's load bearing and it is holding the front weight of those dormers. So.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering. I'm trying to, was it an addition or was it, originally built with a home? And if we can't prove that, we can't prove that. I mean, what I'm saying is no concrete. Because did we get the survey from back when it was built? Does that even exist on this property?
Staff was not provided with one.
And there's nothing, the city doesn't have one, is what you're saying? It's not in the city record?
I don't believe so, no.
Because that would have been probably helpful. Okay.
I agree.
We're crossing and just correct me, Gene, if I'm wrong, we're crossing I feel like a zoning or planning commission to this, or am I wrong? And what I mean by that, because it's a non-conforming property, right? It's a not,
I I know we want to talk about the fence, I just need to.
No, it's not the
yeah.
fence. I'm talking about the building itself and the property and everything.
So in general,
Yes.
whenever we're talking about what is a front yard, it is from the primary structure
Sure.
to the street, right?
Yep.
Staff has said that the primary structure is what is labeled as existing dwelling on this
Got it.
survey going forward to Lindale, because we do not have evidence to prove, or that shows that that porch is structural. Therefore, it's an open porch, and it is a projection into the front yard. It is not, like, the front yard doesn't start at the porch, it
Yeah.
starts at the home.
So-
That is what staff has.
Right, and so we can, at this body, we can approve that variance, is what you're saying.
It's not a variance. That is you guys deciding if there was an error. What you're asking at this point is, did staff make an error in determining where her
Determination.
front yard is? Or did staff not make an error? Or did we make an error? That is the question that we have to answer first. Did staff correctly identify where her front yard is?
Okay, so if you correctly identified, if we determine you correctly identify, we can still issue a variance, correct?
Yes, but if, the reason we have to decide the front yard first is because
Yep.
if there was an error, you don't need to issue the variance.
Correct, yeah.
So that's why we have to take it one step at a
Right,
time.
and I think, and I'll just give you my perspective, I feel like by definition, staff is correct. I don't know what others think. By definition, I think staff is correct, but
Could I
I don't know, I'm not saying that that's right, I'm just saying that by definition and what's written, is, others want to weigh in on that?
I just wanted to point out, I do understand how they made that determination on my front setback, but I feel like the consideration needs to be made because of the non-conforming parts of my lot, that you
I
want
get
me
it.
to conform in the front, but my property already doesn't meet the rear setback minimum requirements or even the length
That's
per
where I was
R4
getting
zoning.
to. Yes, I was trying to get to that, but that's fine.
Sorry.
Like, no,
Thank you.
yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to work with you, so I guess what I'm trying to, and I want my other members to weigh in on is, like, do we believe that, as it's written, if it's, by definition, is staff correct?
Gina, you said that someone determined those were not load bearing.
So, again, in one sec, let me put because I accidentally got clicked off. Of
I feel like we don't have
thing.
definitive evidence to determine.
The burden is always on the applicant. The applicant did not provide evidence other than her word, which I wish
I know, I understand.
stated, that shows that it's load bearing.
Right.
And it is on the applicant to burden that, and we don't have evidence that shows it's load bearing.
Thank you.
Is that a front yard or a side yard? Would that be classified as a front yard or a side yard?
Well, in order for it to be a side yard, this would have to be load bearing.
Right, and we don't have definition, we don't have evidence of that. That's what's the challenge, right? And I-
That was my challenge as well. I really tried to see if I could try to find something, but with it being, I mean, that house was built before Greenfield was even Greenfield, so I spoke to the people I knew to maybe see if I could find something, because I've always kind of wanted to know too, who doesn't want to know like about the history of your home when it's, older?
Where did this come from, Gina? Did this come from City Record, what we're seeing in front of
This
us?
survey?
Yeah,
This survey is what was submitted when they did the garage addition. So the survey is
Okay.
from that.
okay.
In 2023.
Okay.
Or 22.
So
I
where did you get
apologize.
this from? Where did you get this from?
This survey was not provided by the applicant. This I grabbed out of our records.
Right, that's my point, is,
It came from the survey I paid to have
yes.
done, yes, that gave to the city when we had the garage done.
but
Yes.
this, okay. Which is, okay.
So to me, it seems like if there's not evidence that it's load bearing, that the city, there was no error.
Yeah,
That it
because we don't have
was-
evidence. You'd have to bring evidence to show that it was load bearing, or,
that looks
that's
like
only, that's the only way. So, that's where I'm trying to get to, is like, by definition, and and the evidence we have. I don't know if we got to make a motion, because is that the
You,
consensus?
you do need to make a motion.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, I don't know if everybody's thought on that, if there's any.
I mean, I'm, just to put my thought out there, it doesn't look load bearing to me. It looks like you could chop that thing off and the house would still be standing.
Sure.
So that's,
Okay.
I believe they zoned it correctly, and I know that's not what you want to hear, but
Yeah.
I'm going to trust the experts on this one.
I actually think it looks load bearing, but I think it's irrelevant, honestly, because if the onus is on the applicant to prove that it's load bearing and the applicant can't do that, then whether or not it's load bearing, I think is kind of irrelevant. I think that we have to go with like what the facts are, which is we don't know that it's load bearing. So by that definition, by pure definition, semantically, I think that the city did not make an error. And I don't know if I can make a motion on that, is not voting tonight.
No.
I don't think I can.
So I'll make that motion to, I don't even know, it's not a approval or deny, right? Or it's a.
Yeah, so the verbiage that would be that you would move that the city's determination was not made an error.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to determine that the city's, how presented is.
Their determination
Yeah,
of the
the
front
city's
yard.
determination is not an error, and stands.
Second.
So, because that's part one, right? Do we have a part two?
Yes, there'll be a part two.
There's a part two,
All
just
right,
so
so
everybody knows.
I'll call roll for this, for the motion that Mike made and seconded by Kevin Thomas, correct?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mike Braswell.
Aye.
Don Reed.
Aye.
Kevin Thomas.
Aye.
Paul Haggis.
Aye.
4-0. We now know your front yard.
I do also have two neighbors in support also here
Yeah,
tonight
that's
as well.
Yeah, okay.
I do.
If you ever
I do
do-
also have I have a second spiel as well.
Yeah, so let her go through that, and then we'll just try to make a determination on the next piece.
All right. So now that we know, essentially the fence as it is constructed and where it's constructed is in the front yard. As you guys know from our previous one, front yard fences, you're permitted to have decorative fencing in the front yard. With a maximum height of 3 feet. Decorative fencing must be, which is more than 75% open in the front yard. So the requested waiver really has the two components. It has a variance for the height and a variance for the openness. This property is zoned R4 single family and two family residential conservation district. The request that they're seeking is to construct that 6-foot tall solid fence. The reason that they provided in their narrative is due to the irregularity of their lots, limiting the usability of their rear yard, and the location of the fence in the center of the lot, limiting its impact on neighbors. Precedents, Zoning Board of Appeals did very recently decide on a case that acts as precedent here. So in June 2024, you all heard a request for an 8-foot tall fence in a backyard. When asked about the condition of the property, the owner, when it was purchased, the owner did say, when I purchased this property, it had the 6-foot fence. A member of the Zoning Board of Appeals noted that because the condition was present when they purchased the home, they were aware of the sightlines at that time. Therefore, they felt that it fell within the self-imposed hardship facts and conditions, given that they were aware of the conditions when they purchased the property. The member also noted that self-imposed hardships, as you all know, are not grounds for special exceptions. We have received 3 letters of support from adjacent neighbors. Again, just looking back at that June 27th meeting, just to refresh all of our brains on that one. So that one was for the addition of the lattice on the 6-foot tall fence. It would have made it an 8-foot tall fence. When they voted to deny the request, they did it on the grounds that it was a self-imposed hardship. Overall, staff is recommending denial of this request for a variance for 2 reasons. First, the exceptional circumstances. While staff does recognize that the lot is not conforming in many ways, there are many lots in that area that are throughout the whole city that don't meet certain setback requirements or certain size requirements, things of that nature. However, overall, what staff feels is that the lack of exceptional, extraordinary, unusual circumstances aren't present on this lot, and because of that, if this were granted, it would set that precedent that the exception is so general that almost any property in the city could seek the same type of variance, and that it would become so recurrent in nature, we would spend so much time together on Thursday nights that it might suggest that the zoning code should be changed because of that requirement. The second reason is economic hardship and self-imposed hardship. Not being grounds for special exceptions. Economic hardship, obviously, fences aren't cheap, so that can't be a consideration here. Additionally, staff was provided with assessments of the property by the applicant. That was not included in the staff report due to economic hardship not being a reason to grant a variance. Additionally, staff feels that certain decisions made by the property owner since they have lived in their property have limited the amount of rear and side yard that they can use. Specifically, we want to note that in 2023, they did increase the size of their garage. The images on the bottom here, the left one shows the old garage and the one on the right shows the new garage. The location of the garage does significantly impact rear yard and side yard spacing. The applicant could have brought the garage farther forward, thus giving them a greater rear yard. They could have moved it forward approximately 25 feet. Which would have resulted in greater use of their rear yard. Additionally, they have not removed the shed that was present on the property prior to the garage addition, which again reduces the amount of rear yard space that they have available and is part of the reason why they are seeking additional space, because they have noted that due to the irregularity of their lot, they don't have a lot of room. Staff feels that they have exacerbated their lack of space by having these additions in their rear yard. So overall, staff is recommending denial of the variance request for the construction of a 6-foot tall solid fence in the front yard. I think that's all I had to say about that. Yeah.
Am I able to speak?
Sure.
You'll see that the handouts kind of follow up to this and show the measurements using the Greenfield GIS mapping, that the new garage only took about 10 foot out of 6 feet of space, about 10 feet from the side yard and 6 feet in the driveway. There is also a fence that goes from the northeast corner of the prior garage, and you can even see it better in the newer photo. That back little chunk on the alleyway is not fenced in. We can't fence that in because it's right where the alleyway curves, and we can't even put our garbage back there anymore because when the plows come through in the winter, they literally decimate our garbage bins. So I definitely do not want to spend the money to put a fence to make more yard space there. But as you can see, the garage didn't take up much of my yard that was already there. And the only reason why we have that existing shed is because the inside of the garage is completely unfinished because of the amount of money it cost to build. So we still have we own 6 cars. One of them is my son's, but 2 of them are stored in that garage in winter. So that was the purpose of the bigger garage. The prior garage could only hold 1 car. So it's full. I don't feel that that has anything to do with what we would have considered our front yard. Whether we had the prior garage or the new one, it was always my impression this is where I would probably run a fence to. So I've never seen anything past that point. Everything past the porch would be the front yard, but everything from the front yard back would be my side yard. Thank you.
I think it could be aesthetically better. I mean, it's like completely closed off, like almost to match your porch, if you will, like with some spacing, but I mean, This is 6 feet, right? The height is 6
Yes,
foot?
this is the request is for a 6-foot solid fence.
And that porch wall is what, 4 feet? Anybody know? Do you know what that would be?
Oh, the railing?
Yeah, the railing?
Yeah, no, it's shorter than 4 feet. I think it's only about 3.5.
Oh, is it? Okay. I wish the fence guy was here.
If he was here, what would you ask him?
Yeah, I'm wondering
Why
that.
did he-
Trust
yeah.
me, I have some things I would probably, now that I know all these things and I've
Sure.
looked into all this,
Yeah, I
I'm
did-
pretty upset about how,
Just set
That
you
went
up for
down.
failure, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
yeah. His sign's right there in the picture, you can see it.
My feet would make it look better, huh?
Maybe a little short. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, and I don't even. That's another thing why I was here, right? So if we try to get it to conform, I guess in all reality it would conform at what? What would be the conformity?
So, because it is in the front yard,
Yes.
it would need to be 3 feet or less, and it would need to be 75% open.
Yeah. Right. So that.
That would be pointless then for
Right.
us.
Right. Yeah, and I understand that.
I have a puppy that's already 90 pounds.
So
He's,
yeah, and I understand that. That's why I'm like, it's like, okay, we can make a decision that, okay, yep, it needs to conform. Just for example, okay, then she's got to go back to the fence guy and say, hey, it's not conform, and then that, I mean, I know that's a battle between.
Well, it would also leave permanent damage to our property. I mean, obviously,
Well-
because he's drilled into the concrete, it would leave a weird chunk of concrete too in the front of the house, totally
He
ruin
would
the
have to fix
aesthetic.
it. I mean, then, because did he pour the concrete?
No, that was already all there. It was already in place. He's just a fence guy. His sign says Jeff the fence guy.
So did you have the concrete poured before you had the fence? So you already.
Oh,
had-
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I also,
I don't think
I
that
don't know
would-
if this matters, but, as you all know in that part of Greenfield, because I even helped organize a neighborhood watch meeting at the police station, we have a lot of thefts and crimes and things like that. I would really like my dog to be able to guard my porch. If we're outside on the side of the house, I feel there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to see what's going on the porch and approaching my home. I know that I'm not saying that was a determining factor in this whatsoever. Like I said, we've always considered that part of the structure of our house and part of our side yard. Regardless of the old garage, new garage, all those things, we really don't have a rear yard, and even with the old garage, we didn't. It was just a side yard in the front yard area. So this entire time, we thought we were respecting what the ordinance said, nothing in the front yard, nothing in the ordinance said I had to go look up what a front yard was. So, and then I had a contractor, obviously, that didn't do what he was supposed to do. So again, here we are today.
You had a tree removed. Did you have a tree removed too?
Yeah, half of it fell on the street. Almost took out the neighbor's car. And it was hollow, so I'm glad we had it removed.
I don't think it looks aesthetically pleasing, to be honest. Just like a big wall right there.
I think it's all about precedent.
Yeah.
Is there any neighbors that don't like it there?
No, nobody showed up or has voiced that, so.
You said you have neighbors here. Do they want to speak?
Both of them, yeah.
You can speak if you want. I mean, that's up to you.
Please just make sure you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Aide Meriches. I am in 3330 West Lindell Avenue, Greenfield. I'm right next to Marsha's property. I moved there in 2014. And I just want to say, personally, I don't have a problem with the fence. I do think it just brings value to the property, which I also benefit from. And I want to touch on the topic of the garage. I think it is a very gray area because when I moved there, their little garage was there, and it, in my opinion, it is the big garage that's now built there. It's right where the little bit was. There is no back yard there, and I think her property is very unique because her property is the only one in the block that does not have a backyard space. Even if we take that shed out, the shed out.
It's all right. We've heard a lot of swear words tonight.
No, the shed
Another one.
out. It's not like a very big space. I mean,
Yeah, and
it's just taking a shed out.
That makes sense. I
yeah.
think that staff is trying to, it went wider, right? It took out some of that rear yard, if you will. So I think in that, they're trying to state that that doesn't mean that, okay, you build a fence in the front to, so I can understand staff's, I guess, position. Yeah, and I don't think that the garage is in question necessarily, in my opinion. It's just trying to, I guess I'll be honest, it's already up, but try to get it where it's maybe more aesthetically pleasing and conforms better. 3 feet, yes, what's the point? I get it, right? But it could be more aesthetically pleasing and maybe at a more optimal height.
I'm actually, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but anyone that has seen it, I've had people stop and take photos. It's actually a design that I designed.
Please don't take offense then.
No, I don't. I really don't. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions.
Sure.
And I value, everyone has the right to their own opinions. I totally get it. I did also include a before and after appraisal, which shows the before was with the new garage too, by the way. And I know property values and things like that can affect that as well, but it also shows that this has helped my property value. It's a solid cedar fence. Everything is cedar. It's just stained in a way where the black areas make it look like it's metal, but it isn't. It's all cedar.
Oh, is it?
Yes, complete cedar. And so it wasn't cheap, but I wanted to put up something really nice that would add a little bit more color and warmth to the exterior of our property and give us more functionality with our large dogs and also secure our property better. There's a lot of thefts that happen.
Right.
We've had contractors working, when the garage stuff was going on, there was some of their stuff they left in the back was stolen, and they were looking at us like we took it. I'm like, no, but why'd you leave it here? So it where it is now, it would serve its purpose for us, and it's not doing anything negative to anyone or anything. So I really hope you do consider and issue an exception. If this means I do have to try to find something or hire an engineer to come in and pick apart our front porch to make sure it's load bearing, I'll try my best. But I myself had trouble finding information on that too, so I'm going off of visuals.
Sure.
And I've asked numerous people, even including my mailman, do you think this is in the front yard? Nobody, not one person has said yes, unless they know about zoning, like Gina does. And I get that. Like I said, if I knew, if I knew then what I knew now, would I have done that? No, I would know that I would have had to come to you guys first, and I wouldn't be dealing in the situation I'm in now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is what we really did want to do with the property, and we
I just
thought
think
we
it
were
needs to be a
within.
bit shorter. That's all. And if it had some spacing in it, I know you want privacy, but that's all. I don't.
Just as a reminder, decorative fencing which is the exception. So she's looking for an additional 3 feet and 75%. It's supposed to be 75%.
5%, right.
Open.
Right.
So only 25% closed. And
I mean,
100%. So I mean, that's quite. I'm just mentioning that.
Oh, no, I
It's
understand.
a very
Yeah.
different fence than
Right.
what is
It's
permitted.
a very look. Yes. Yeah.
Can it be moved back to?
Gina, could we get in the weeds for a second? Okay, just based on the front yard, the definition of front yard that's in the staff report, it says where such front yard is not obviously evident to the zoning administrator, the zoning administrator shall determine the front yard. And that's what we decided, that you did not incorrectly determine the front yard at first, right?
Correct.
The zoning administrator, do they have the purview to reevaluate their own decision?
I will reevaluate it now and reaffirm my decision that, because I'm the zoning administrator, that's me.
Right.
I still believe that my determination of where her front yard is accurate per code, per information that's provided. I stand by that decision to where the front yard is.
Okay.
And even if the,
Space.
then the question could become, does the entire porch need to be considered or load bearing, or does it end at the load bearing portion of the home?
Sure.
So that's another question.
Right.
However, I mean, when I talked to our building inspector and I talked to him about it being load bearing, he did not believe it was load bearing.
Okay.
Obviously, he did not go into the property due to the fence being constructed without a permit. We can't see it as well as we could have if the fence hadn't been constructed without a permit. But
So, and I don't know if I'll put it this way. We had, and I don't know if you guys remember, we had the same very scenario, I think before, where a fence went up. And I think we had the applicant go back to the fence person and come up with their own, right, to try to get it to conform or try to get it sorted out, right? Didn't we do that?
Well, the fence isn't done, so he still has work to do there because there was a stop work order issued.
Right.
But if I have to change anything about that, the entire thing's gonna have to come down. The entire thing, because the length of the panels right now all match.
Sure.
And my concrete's even drilled into that.
Yeah, that's if it's got to come back, right? But I
Yeah.
guess what I'm trying to say is,
If we open it in the front more, but I have large
I don't want
dogs.
to give, my point is, I don't want to give you any guidance. I think it would have been helpful for him to be here, but do you go back to him and see if we can get a better conforming situation and then bring it back? But yeah, I don't like it being 6 feet. I get the 3 feet's pointless. I'm trying to work with you, so you rip it, I mean, if we deny it, you rip it down, and then that's
so
it.
if I may speak to another
Yeah.
point, because of all of the zoning board of things that have gone on, and one that didn't even appear today, I've been talking to the city attorney quite a bit.
Yep.
And one of the discussions we had was, why is it a 3-foot fence in the front yard? Why is it a decorative fence? And what, at this point, we have decided on is that the council, when they adopted that portion of code, what they wanted was not a functional fence in the front yard. They saw the front yard fences as decorative, not functional. So it was meant to be a decoration in the front yard, not meant to be a functional fence.
Yeah,
Whereas
but-
the fences in other portions
You're
were
right.
meant to have that function. So part of our discussion might even include if the intention was to have a taller fence or a more, the openness discussion, does that deviate from their goal of having decorative fences in the front yard of residential properties throughout the city of Greenfield?
Right, and that's a blanketed, you're putting that in a box, right? When, to my point, I was trying to say this is a non-conforming property, I think, and I know you understand your points with a larger garage, took away from their green space, and that's kind of on the applicant, right? They took away from the green space, doesn't mean that they get to build a fence in front. I completely understand. What I'm trying to get to is, okay, but the shape of this, right, to me is, I think to the point is non-conforming, where, yeah, you got limited space, so you tried to utilize the space as much as possible. I feel like it could have been done in a better way, less closed off, a little more decorative, at least kind of flow, does that make sense what I'm saying? Flow
It would
with
be easy to make and, space those boards out facing the street.
What about the height, right? You got 6 feet. Right? Why do you want 6 feet versus 5 feet or
Keep my
4.5
dogs from
feet?
getting out.
What type of dog is it?
A Cane Corso. He's a protection dog.
Sure.
Jump 5 feet?
I had one that could jump
Big dogs.
6 feet.
But you don't have that other side blocked off either, though, right? You don't have, by the garage, you only have a little, like you have an opening. There's
There
no
are way
door
more
there.
photos that you guys should have been provided. Okay.
I think I saw.
The gates just aren't up.
Oh, so there's gonna be a gate there is what
Two
you're trying to say?
gates, the gate facing the porch and then a gate between the fence and the garage.
Got it.
Yep.
I'm tracking now. Okay. And what are you gonna utilize that space for? Just like sit? Like what's the?
Well, we have like a patio there.
Sure.
That grass area obviously is for my dogs,
Okay.
to do their business. I've realized I have to pick it up a lot more often now that that's all. We used to just let them out on a leash. We've had issues, and even my neighbors can talk to this. We've all had issues in our neighborhood with loose dogs getting out. Her dogs have been attacked twice. You know, I have multiple police reports even filed.
Sure.
That's always been a problem. I don't want my dog to come in contact with another dog that's loose, and I definitely don't want one coming in contact with him. So, plus, it's now closing off the garage. Nobody can break into the garage door because the fence in the back already closes that all off.
Okay.
They would have to try and jump over these fences, which obviously I don't think anyone's going to try to jump over the 6-foot fence. And the one in the back was already there when we purchased the property. It's also a cedar fence. But there's also, our property and our land is higher up than that house behind us. And there's a retaining wall right along the bottom of our rear fence. So it really limits us, even if we didn't have that shed. And because I looked into all of this, I remember talking to Gina about it even, because she's like, well, what about if you had more space in the back? And I'm like, no, I understand why you're saying that, but it would probably cost us 20, 30 grand to get that properly graded, grass everywhere. There's a lot of rock back in there. It's just not conducive. All we're trying to do is have an area where our dogs can be outside, where we can enjoy it, and it provides more security and functionality to our property.
Is that shed full? Or what's
Not completely full, but it's got like the snow blower in it, and the lawnmower and like yard things and stuff like that.
Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Like I said, precedent. You're gonna have people, like you said, people going there taking pictures, and they'll be coming in here going, well, you allowed that one in the front yard.
Yeah.
I'm in the same
Nobody's told me they thought it was in my front yard, though. That's what I don't understand.
From our point.
And nobody has a porch like that. Nobody. I have yet to see a house in I grew up in Milwaukee. I've lived in Greenfield 18 years. Never seen one like that anywhere. And built in the 1930s. So I don't see how that would be setting any type of precedence.
No,
And with
think
the
his point is
non-conforming
we're seeing,
lot.
somebody drives by, right, you're seeing a 6-foot fence off the side of the house, right? I think it's.
Well, you just said off the side of their house. I think
Sure,
anyone
yeah,
driving
yes,
by is.
but you know
gonna-
but the point is, right, that it's, it's considered the front. Like if you look at the front of the house, there's a fence there, right? I understand you're saying it's side but I just wish it could be aesthetically better. It's not blatant, right? I want to work with you, but it can't be blatant. That's all.
I mean, I'm open to suggestions as long as it's not going to leave permanent damage to my property. I mean, I just
Well,
can't.
that's what's hard because
short-
the fence contractor should have, right? That's on the fence contractor as well, right?
Yeah, I think you had a problem with him.
I definitely do. I agree. The design was my choosing, though. I don't feel like, I don't know if you've seen all the other pictures, but
Sure. Because at the end of the day, if you go back to the fence and say, hey, this is not conforming, they're going to deny, or they denied, or whatever, and if you redo it, you're going to be back here again asking us, right, is my assumption, right? It's, what I mean by back again because she can also ask for another variance, right? Because existing, or is it denial and then she is gone? Like,
Want her to come back for the same request?
no,
That's what
no, 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 no.
hearing you say, but-
I'm saying what the options are, right? I'm thinking of the options, what would happen,
So-
right? Because she has a fence up, right? And say she wants a variance beyond 3 feet, right? 3 feet doesn't work, right? She would have to then come back.
So if her
'Cause
request was for
she's in the
anything-
middle,
yeah.
right?
So if her request before you
Not
right
even
now
done.
is for a 6-foot solid fence, if she came back at a different time and said, I have a 4-foot solid fence, here we are.
Yeah, that's my point. This is where we're gonna be back in the same spot. So I'm trying to, how can we,
I mean, would a 5-foot fence with spacing be more viable?
70% or 75% of spacing is a lot of space.
right? So you'd
Oh,
you'd be asking.
I'm like
Yeah,
picturing a
so you're-
picket fence type of spacing. So what do you mean the entire fence has to be 70% open? So like anything facing my garage and the front? Or,
So the portion in the map on the left that's circled in red,
okay,
that portion so essentially you would remove 75% of the boards from that fence, which to get you to 75%.
oh, how would that look? I
And if
don't,
you're only-
is that a fence?
That's the point.
Is it a fence then? But I don't
But
understand.
that's what I'm saying is, so the area that's in the red box, that would be the area that would need to conform with whatever it needs. The portion that's in the red box now would fall under the decorative fencing part of our ordinance now. What they're talking about is potentially something in between. But to your point, what part of the fence would need to change? Only the part that's in the red. The part that's kind of toward the garage, heading toward the garage, could stay as is.
Well, I think anything along the driveway should stay the same and just
Well-
change what's facing
It
to
is
make it more
it's
aesthetic.
It's a straight line from, the front yard's a straight line, so.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm just trying to work in the middle, because what I don't want is us deny, and then you come back and say, hey, can I have a variance for my height and variance for 75%? Can we work in the middle? But I don't know also visually what that would look like. I can see what 5 foot probably would look like, but not, because that's what I'm trying to get to, that's what you would probably be asking for, because I think, my
Would
opinion.
be the minimum, because otherwise there was no reason to spend all this money and even do this, and
Sure.
just,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. The minimum. What do you mean by the minimum? Because it's
height. Like
the
I would want to
minimum-
go shorter than 5 feet. At
Yeah. Well,
all, yeah.
it's 3 feet is you're conforming at 3 feet in
Right.
75%, right? So, and I don't know what the rest of the board feels. Right. I'm just giving you my opinion that we can make it look aesthetically better and maybe bring the height down, but I don't know.
If she did want to maintain the exact same fence, so it could look exactly the same,
Mm-hmm.
but it
I'd
would
have
need
to
to be
move
moved
it.
back. But from a 6-foot solid fence, it could go right along that front yard line, right? That would limit the direct access that she was seeking from the porch, but it would give her still the 6-foot solid fence for the privacy and security of the remainder of the yard. So essentially, let me grab my mouse.
It would look out of place. I would have damaged concrete exposed on the front of my house.
Moved it back.
So,
Yeah, if she moved it back.
Which
concrete would be? It would be that curb piece.
Yeah,
It would-
that would be.
it would be this,
And that's
right?
been drilled into, correct.
Yeah, it
And
would
that's
be
been
this
drilled
part.
into, and then now you have that, it just,
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying.
it would look like, oh yeah, we just slapped this up, and like I said, I mean,
Well-
if we're having people over just outside working and doing things, like to be able to walk from the yard right onto the porch, just,
Yeah.
it flows. Yeah, but
You
my
just have a
dog
gate in
won't
front
be
of your house,
able.
right? Essentially.
would be a gate on the side of, I got rid of my front view. So essentially, like if you envision this farther back, they could have a gate here, which would be located here.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
have did
that
the
would be
fence
good,
then,
yes.
though.
Yeah,
But then
it would still be
I,
on the
doesn't
sidewalk.
make
you're taking an 18 by 18 area of grass with 2 large dogs, and now I'm taking
Yeah,
almost
I-
8 feet out of that. I
I understand what you're saying.
And I think we all understand that, but again,
Right.
having dogs, that's self-imposed, you know?
No, I understand that,
I don't- I
and
hope you
that's
don't
why I
take
didn't
that
talk
way.
about it earlier. I was just trying to put it all out there, but it all goes back to, why would I have ever thought that this was in my front yard? I mean, originally, when I spoke to the city planner, before any of this even started, I spoke to Luke, and I said to him, you know, what are my options for putting a fence? Because originally I wanted to bring it all the way out to the city line and bring it over and then go to the house before the curved walkway and have all of that fenced. And I was like, well, what are my options? And he told me, well, it has to be decorative. And I'm like, okay, and 3 feet. And I'm like, well, why would I spend all that extra money on a fence that long if it can only be 3 feet? I'll never own small dogs. So I was like, okay, well, this says it can't be in the front yard. It's not in my front yard. And the contractor agreed. And yeah.
That's who you should go back to, as a contractor.
Yeah, I would hire a lawyer and go back after him. This could all have been prevented by him doing his job.
And then I'll be left with thousands of dollars in legal fees and damaged property and no fence, because
I'm
I'm
not
not
I'm not a
gonna
lawyer, but
leave
you can
a 10-foot space of grass in my fenced area, so.
I'm so sorry. I'm not a lawyer. but
Otherwise, if I can show that the porch is load bearing, correct?
They've already determined that.
So that's nothing that could ever be revisited if I was able to find additional information and prove that?
Well, that's something you'd have to work with staff, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, then you would work with staff to determine, yeah, so that probably should have happened before we even had this meeting. Because, you know, yeah, and to be fair, Gina, yes, we agreed that based on the evidence presented, right? I think that's a key piece, is evidence presented that, yes, that is a front yard. If there's other evidence after that, then that's probably a different story. Just to be fair, that's probably a different story. But yeah, then it's on you to then, the applicant to
And
then
I
make that
guess-
determination or figure that out. If you
I-
get an engineer or whomever, I'm not trying to put anything, but we voted or we determined that based on what's written and the evidence in front of us, that yes, it's your front yard.
So my front yard can be enforced, but it doesn't matter that my lot's only 75 feet long and I only
Yeah,
have
because it's not,
14 feet
yeah,
in the back.
that's why I asked about the non-conforming piece, but I don't think that that is a clear determination, right? Because when common council did it, they probably did not put in that clause or that piece of,
And then how
okay,
does that play into other houses in the neighborhood
I don't
being
know.
way closer to the city line than my
I don't know. Then
porch and
you
my
probably have
fence?
to speak to your older person, because then they would have to have that conversation with, you know, with the common council would have that discussion to change that if needed. That's a different, you know.
Can I also ask for why the example being used is somebody who wanted to heighten a 6-foot fence on the side of their
Well,
house? and
I
how
think the
that-
point is that the 6 foot, right?
Well, the reason I use that specific precedence is because the reason that it was denied is because the board felt that was a self-imposed hardship because the state of their property at the time that they purchased it was still the state of their property at the time that they're asking for a variance. So for example, you've owned your property for 18 years. Nothing about your lot lines has changed, nothing about your lot being
Right.
more or less.
Or what I
nothing has-
considered the front of my home either.
Correct, but nothing about your lot has changed.
Actually, yes, when we originally brought it, there was no curb, there was no road. Actually, the grass even came out further before they did all of that.
It didn't change
So-
I don't believe it changed where the right-of-way was, though.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
It
right,
did not change
no.
where the right-of-way was.
I don't know.
They would have
It
built
did-
in the right of way to do that curb and gutter.
Yeah, so the right-of-way did not change. So nothing about the condition of your lot lines has changed.
Yep.
The location of the home has not changed, and therefore we felt that it was a very similar case where 18 years ago, when you bought the home, the condition is what it is now in terms of where the fence could be located.
Anybody want to make a motion or?
You have a motion to vote?
Yeah, you can make the motion, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's open, I mean,
Yeah, I'm going to go with the city on this one and deny. I think the fence is too tall. It's not aligned with the front yard.
So the motion is to deny the request for
And I
just a
gotta-
tall solid.
Yeah, and I
fence.
want to clarify something, I think for this motion was to deny, right? And we got to vote, but even if we deny it, she can also come back, right? Or she can also work with staff, right? Maybe load bearing, like that determination, load bearing. I know we made a vote on it, but if that does change, whatever, and then if you want the fence to truly be there, but maybe presented in a different way, I just wanted to make sure that, like, I want everybody to be open to what could happen is where I'm going. So, like, because it's already up, like, we're in middle of construction, and I understand. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, so what I'm saying is there's probably still options for you. I don't want you to, like, is really what I'm trying to say. Like, and I feel your pain, like you got to then take it down and all this, but, you know, it doesn't mean that you can't bring it back in front of us, I don't think, right?
Honestly, I don't know. I'd have to ask the attorney.
Yeah, we had to find that out.
I don't
So
know
yeah,
in
maybe I
terms of-
shouldn't speak so much, but, because I don't want, you know, I mean, I would think you could raise as many
I mean, does
applications
anybody
as you
have any
want.
suggestions that wouldn't involve me moving it, but it not being 3 feet?
Yeah, that's hard because I don't know.
I'm only asking because there were suggestions made earlier. I
Yeah,
know that was a different case, but.
I would say 5 feet if she done it, because it looks good. I was past there.
This was hard. This is like, and then, and then,
6 feet is too high. It's got to be 5.
yeah.
And that's
I
called a
wouldn't vote for
side
5.
yard. It's not,
No.
It's hard. It's a hard determination without the fence guy being here and what your mock-up truly is, right? I can see what it is now, but, right, if you even had a proposal, what?
He did not. It was all verbal. He's a one-man show. I mean, he
Sure.
does really good work. I went off a lot of reviews. I did some research on various companies. He wasn't the cheapest. He wasn't the most expensive. But it's all he does is fencing. But no, I didn't have anything in writing.
Yeah.
No, that was probably a mistake.
Do you know if he's licensed?
Yes,
In-
he
here in
says he
Wisconsin?
was. He told the inspector he was. So I don't know if he had to provide anything on that, but
There might be some grounds there. Again, I apologize. It feels like you kind of got the shaft on this one in
Yeah.
that he should have done his job. He should have pulled these permits. He should have never drilled a single hole until he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's going to give you precedence to take appropriate actions. The law's on your side for that kind of stuff. He's not allowed to take advantage. But from the city of Greenfield, I feel that this doesn't qualify for any stretch. If you can bring it down, you can open it up, then I would say, yeah, I'm good to go. But
Yeah,
present
you'd have to
state,
bring
this
it
is a-
down and open it up, so then, yeah, but I don't know if, and I think that load-bearing piece also matters, right? I mean, if you could truly figure that out, then that gives you a clear mind, okay, what's my, right, you know what the city's, you're right now, you don't even know, to be honest, because you don't know if that's load-bearing, so that
I'm
piece is
just
truly in limbo.
going off visuals and
Right,
where
right,
the
right.
dormer
That's my
lines
point.
up with the bend of the
But
roof.
we don't have
and-
facts,
Yeah.
right? We don't got facts. So if you get those facts, that may help you or may not. But that's a determination you have to make, right? To if you really want this fence, for example.
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, we can't advise. I'm just trying to kind of
I
help
understand.
keep your mind open to what is available to you.
Wonder if you could make it load bearing.
I don't know. There we go.
Conversation for today.
Right, so I'm going to
I
second.
don't want to put any more money into this right now.
Right. I'm going to second the motion, right? I think we'll do roll call vote way out there, and then I think the applicant needs to determine next steps.
I do
on her
have
own.
a suggestion. Sorry to cut you off, Mike. I do have a suggestion. You say it's the beginning of the dwelling. Is there an option to bring that door forward and create a sort
So-
of mud room of sorts to
So
bring
one
the
of the
dwelling
things
forward?
to keep in mind is that, yes, there are non-conforming lots in the city.
Yep.
The setback for this lot is 25 feet from the front lot line. The house is 25.35 feet. So if she, let's say, for example, there was no porch there at all, and she says, I want to put a mudroom on top, or in front there. We'd be right here, and she'd be asking for a variance for encroachment in her front yard setback.
Because it's
So-
not load bearing, the piece is the load bearing, right? It's part of it's part of the existing dwelling. If it's load bearing, it's part of the existing dwelling.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I do have a motion to deny the request for a 6-foot tall solid fence made by Paul, seconded by Mike.
Yep.
I'm going to call roll now. Mike Braswell.
Aye.
Don Reed.
No.
Kevin Thomas.
Aye.
Paul Haggis.
Aye.
We have a 3-1.
Okay, so motion to deny
Just for
carries. Yep.
clarification, so at this point, it's denied, therefore her fence is not in conformance with code.
Yep.
Removal timeline, guys?
Yeah, I think this is where it gets kind of gray, right? Right, I understand the applicant has there's some, I guess there's some things that she can maybe figure out.
I would also note that the fence isn't complete, which does limit the applicant's current use of the fence. I don't know.
I still have to put my dogs out on a tie out.
Right, you still gotta put them on a tie out and things of that nature. So,
Or take them outside in 5-degree weather, which I'm not gonna
Right.
choose that option.
Is there a maximum? How much leeway do we have with this time limit?
So in the past, if we have not been given direction, pretty much we give them about a month. It depends what it
Right.
is. Obviously, in an ideal world, there wouldn't be a fence there, so we wouldn't have to have this discussion. But depending what the action is that was taken, and then we're saying you can't do X, Y, or Z, generally about a month or two. Obviously, we're in winter right now, so it's a little bit trickier to undo work. But generally, we give about a month or two, and then we go out and see where they are in the process. And I mean, staff is probably over accommodating when it comes to undoing things that the Zoning Board of Appeals has voted on, but
Yeah,
it's
and-
kind of up to you if you wanted to set something more
and
specific.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna be fair, like 6 months, right? Either it comes down to 6 months or you make the adequate steps, right, to reconfigure, do whatever you need to do. If it's non-conforming, you take the right steps, which is probably coming to us again, potentially, right? Working with staff to, if it's non-conforming, if it's conforming, right, they'll obviously have to, because did you pull the permit yet at all? Did you even know?
No, because it was the
Right,
day
so,
that the
I would figure some stuff out before you decide, but we're trying to work with you instead of be like, oh, a month, no, you gotta pull it down, like,
That's unrealistic.
yeah, just like maybe 6 months, right? So we're looking at, well, let's say the end of July, I don't know, maybe that's several months, whatever, right?
I
To-
feel that's reasonable.
Yeah, so then you can figure out what you need to do, whether you want to pull it down, whether you want to go after the fence guy, whether you want to figure out your home is load bearing, or the porch is load bearing, whether you want to reconfigure. If it's non-conforming to the code, then you got to come back to us. Like, you have some options.
I mean,
The
is it a
options that you
waste
don't
of-
like.
Is it a waste of time to get it lowered to 5 feet and?
Well,
put some
work with staff. I think you can work with staff, and I think Gina is reasonable. I think if you can present it in a way, right, that that's palatable, right, and the fence guy probably should be here.
Yeah.
Some of those things, I guess, work, to tell the complete story, if that makes sense.
I wouldn't dwell on that 5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, don't dwell on the 5 feet. We don't. 6
I'm just
feet
trying
is
to
way.
think
yeah.
of a way to keep it there. I mean, obviously,
Well, then
I've got to get some
you
research
got to come
done on
closer
my-
to the 3 feet, right? We're not going to tell you what, but you got to come closer to 3 feet, and you got to make it, I guess, closer to the 75.
That, I might as well.
I said
take it down
closer.
then.
I didn't. You understand?
Gina, do we have to determine this time frame now, or can we push this back? I hate kicking things down the road, but can we push it back a month and get the fence guy here and find out realistically what can he do and in what time frame?
Because
Is
she
it-
can always come to us.
It sounds like even by giving her the 6, so let's say after 6 months, I never hear from Marcia again.
Mm-hmm.
Then and we go out there and the fence is still there. Marcia has ghosted me, I can, at that point, I can have code enforcement go out and say,
Yes.
hey, there's a fence here that's
You need to
in
take it
violation of
down.
the code.
Code
So you're
enforcement.
by giving her the 6 month, you're not only giving her ample opportunity to figure out what she wants to do, but you're also empowering staff to take action if she
If she
never comes
doesn't.
back to
Correct.
us. So, I mean, it's up to you if you want to do the 6 months, if you want to do 3 months, if you don't want to do anything, that's fine, but it gives staff direction that is very helpful for us to take your ruling, which was deny, and enforce it, essentially.
And it doesn't, she isn't excluded, because we are gonna meet next month, providing that other applicant comes back, right? To be honest, so it's kinda on them, because we're at the mercy of the applicant if somebody raises an app, so-
Well, for the next month meeting, isn't the deadline passed for submitting
Is it passed?
application for that?
No, and I wasn't thinking application, I was thinking of if
Oh,
you,
just
and I'm thinking
coming
from the
with the-
planning commission, conceptual, I don't know if we can do, hopefully, I don't know, or if the.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that.
But,
I don't know if we can make, because I think
because of where we are, then maybe it's the following
yeah, so
following
it'll
meeting.
either be February or March.
But my point is I don't know if anybody's opposed, but even a conceptual, right? Within that's, you got 6 months, don't wait until month 6. But if you could bring something conceptual, that may, because that happens with the planning commission too, right? They try to bring something to get some type of buy-in or suggestion before they submit, right? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Submit, right? So you're not spending all this money, all this time or whatever, right? To at least get some type of idea. So then if you do bring an application that's non-conforming, right, then we've kind of already seen it. We kind of know where we're going. And if that makes sense.
Can you explain to me what type of individual I would need information from? Would I have to bring that individual here with me when showing that it's load bearing?
You need proof. So get an engineer, some type of,
Like a report, or do they have to be
yeah, I think
here?
it would work with staff. Staff would know, right? Because they work with this type of
Okay,
stuff.
That's what I
Yeah,
need to know.
yeah, you would have
next.
to work with staff to determine, because we would go off of them with what's acceptable with the city, right? And they would look at the city, with the city inspector, right? And engineering department and figure that piece out,
Okay.
right?
Another question, since it was brought up during the last meeting, want to bring it up again. So essentially, if she does come back, it would be a new request for a variance.
Yep.
Are we charging fees for that? Essentially, it's a new application at that point, which is different than what was earlier today, which was essentially tabled.
But that also, staff has that determination, correct?
I can.
She
unless
should
you
work
guys-
with staff. I don't really
I would
care.
vote
I don't
to
want to be
waive those
involved.
If
Work
we're-
with the city to make that determination, right? If it's credible, then it is credible, right? What I mean is, like, if it's gonna, I don't want to say.
It's going to take.
Waste our
It's going
time.
to take, like, no matter what, and I understand, like, obviously there's a difference between something being tabled, but if it's a new variant,
Sure.
I mean, like, we still have all of the same time commitments, all of the same notices we're making for this one. So I just want to put that out there that if you were going to, I'll be honest with you, if you leave the option to staff, I'm going to charge her again.
Okay.
If you don't want that, you have to tell me not to, otherwise I'm going to.
I mean, if it's a matter of just coming back with a 3-foot tall fence design and conceptually saying, okay, that's something we can get on board with,
So
I wouldn't
there
want to charge for that.
is, there's financial implications of doing
I'll
this.
pay the fee. It's okay.
okay,
I'll pay the
fine.
fee.
So yeah, but
It's
with the
fine.
fee piece, the conceptual to us shouldn't be, is that a fee versus the actual submission? That's where,
I
that's,
don't know if you guys can do conceptual only.
why not? Why wouldn't we be able to do
'Cause
that?
I mean, I guess you could do conceptual, but
Why
then
not?
she would have to come back later for a final.
Okay, but then
So-
that final she could pay, right? Did you paid already for this, right?
I'll pay again if
Well,
if
that's,
that's what it.
yes, so that's up to the applicant, but I was trying to give you options to work through.
It's cheaper than a lawyer.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, consider all your costs.
And, you know,
with
you
the big
guys are
picture.
giving me some options, so, and willing to hear me out. So if I have to pay a fee again, that's what I'll do.
Okay. All right.
So.
Thank you.
Motion 6 months? Do we need to
Yeah, I
do that?
think, do we, no, I think 6 months, right? So end of July, right? And if you ghost her, then guess what?
I'm not correct.
We know where you live.
No, yeah.
You know where
Then,
you're
yeah,
following.
then there'll be a code enforcer that comes out. That's what
Right.
happens.
Right. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries.
7:52.
done.
Thank you, everyone.